Hi guys, oh my goodness, long time no see, I know. I cannot tell you the last time I actually sat down to film a YouTube video, actually set up a camera and a tripod, not just a travel vlog or anything. It has probably been a couple of years, to be honest with you. So this is so exciting, but it's so funny. I have been on YouTube now for 10 years, actually, exactly. I started when I was 13 and I have captured so many special moments in my life, from middle school to high school to college to after college, now to my engagement and wedding. So I just feel so sentimental about this. And I had always thought about, you know, one day when I got engaged, I could do a wedding series, and here I am. That is so crazy to say, but yeah, I have been a busy girl since you guys last saw me. I have started my big girl career. I'm actually in the midst of switching careers now. I was in human resources basically since college, and I loved it, but recently I decided I wanted to try something new, and I have such a supportive family and fiance, so I am going to be switching into the real estate path. Who knows, maybe I'll go back to HR, but as of right now, I've kind of career switched over. So in addition to that, I recently got engaged. So I have been with my now fiance Brian now for almost a year and a half. We've known each other for a few months before then. We actually met on Bumble, believe it or not. And we talked kind of on and off for a few months before we actually went on a date. I did not have my head in the right space, but he was so sweet and just, you know, kind of kept hanging around and everything. And so then finally we actually connected and went on a date. And since that first date, we were ultimately completely inseparable from each other. So we've been going strong since then. Our anniversary is 1/11, our dating anniversary, that is. So yeah, now we are engaged. We have been for almost a month now. So we got engaged April 6th of this year, which is 2024. So we got engaged, and anybody who knows me knows I'm such a planner. I'm so type A. So I kind of jumped headfirst into wedding planning. Not necessarily because I was in any super big rush. I had just, like any, you know, average person, had dreamed of their wedding day for a long time. So I was just kind of eager. As I'll kind of go into later in this video, I had already had an idea of what I wanted, and some venues and kind of like aesthetics and themes I wanted. So I wasn't coming to wedding planning like completely naive to the whole thing. I did have some sort of idea about like what I wanted. So I just kind of casually started reaching out to people, and I learned very, very quickly, oh my goodness, that wedding planning books way far in advance. So we are just like, oh my goodness, it is crazy, because we were looking at the fall of 2025. So I started reaching out about those dates, and you guys, you will not believe how many venues told me that they were already booked. We ended up jumping even more headfirst into it than I had originally intended, mainly just so that we could lock in a venue and a date. So if you're a bride already, you know this. If you're not, if you're new to it or not yet engaged, I used to watch videos like this before I was engaged, let's be honest. I didn't know for sure which venue I wanted. I had like general ideas, of course. But for me, it was way more important to get the kind of wedding we wanted rather than a certain date. Now, I do have a preferred date. I'm not going to be sharing the preferred date just because I'm going to be sharing our wedding location in this video. So I don't necessarily want the whole internet to know our exact location and date, but you know, you guys will certainly know. I will say it's fall of 2025, and it's related to our dating anniversary date. So yeah, I'm just going to be referencing fall as our wedding time just for now. You guys will know once it actually happens. But yeah, so I was just baffled at how far out everything booked. So we ended up just kind of going headfirst, full venue tours, because you really can't decide on anything else or really book anybody else until you know where's it at, what's the date. Because for example, for a makeup artist or photographer, you're like, hey, you know, I want to book you, and they're like, okay, when and where. And if you don't know when and where, then you can't really book anybody. So it makes sense to start there. Well, actually you should really start with your budget and then immediately after your venue and your date, but we knew budget pretty early on, discussed that. Let me know if you want a whole other video from me about establishing a wedding budget, how to track it, how to plan it, all that, because it's so intimidating, especially if you're like me and basically planning the whole thing yourself. You just don't know where to start. So let me know if you want a video like that. So yeah, so this video is going to be all about the venues we toured in the Central Florida, Southern Florida, Mid Florida, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, area. We are based kind of in Orlando, so our venues were mainly local. We did look at going out of the state to other states. I would have loved to have gone to like Italy or something, but because there's certain family members we have here maybe a little bit older, they really can't travel as far, unfortunately. So we weren't willing to sacrifice having those special people here on our big day, so we did decide to do it local to Florida at the very least. And then it worked out that the venue we chose was actually the closest to us geographically. So yeah, so I'm gonna give you guys a little rundown. I found these videos so helpful because there's so many venues out there that are absolutely beautiful, especially in Florida. You have like the beaches and everything. It was hard for me to even narrow down, you know, which venues I wanted to tour, because you could tour 20 of them, but that would be really time consuming, especially if you were kind of running against the clock, because I will tell you, like, I reached out, you know, April 10th to some of these venues, and by April 25th when I toured, the dates they told me they had on the 10th were no longer available at all on the 25th. So that just goes to show you, even a couple of weeks, if you're trying to get married in like peak wedding season, they go quick. So this video is going to be all about the beautiful venues we toured, but we just ultimately didn't choose. And then at the end, I will let you know which one we went with and why. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. Also, I just want to say shout out to my beautiful friend Megan. She got me these bride earrings the other night. We went to dinner for my engagement. She's so sweet, so I decided to wear them. I'm also in the midst of kind of testing different bridal looks. I have learned that the super slicked back Sophia Richie look is probably not for me. That's okay, but we're just gonna roll with it for this video. But yeah, other than that little note, let's jump into it. Okay, so I wanna give you guys kind of a brief rundown of the sort of aesthetic and vibe I was going for. So I am a very girly, if you can't tell, I'm very feminine, very girly. And I like really regal, timeless, romantic style. So for our wedding, I wanted it to be, I keep saying royal wedding to everyone, not in like the chuggy way of like, you know, super like themed. It's not a theme, but it's more of a vibe. So I just want it to be elegant and classic, and I want it to have a lot of like wow moments. So for me, the venue was probably single-handedly the most important aspect of the entire wedding. My main goal going into venue shopping was to get something that I love the venue so much, the basics of it, that I didn't feel like I had to overly decorate. Now that being said, I do want to, you know, decorate, bring in florals, all that, but my goal was that I could pick a venue that was so beautiful on its own that like, if I didn't have a drop of budget to decorate it, that would be okay. So high standards for me. I also am very, very picky, like extremely picky about surroundings. So like I said, we, you know, my fiance, he's so sweet. He's completely neutral. We would have gotten married like on a glacier in Alaska had he wanted, or had I wanted to. He doesn't care. He's very involved, but he ultimately kind of leaves the vision up to me, bless his heart. But yeah, so we really needed something that kind of kept people in the moment. So I don't really know any other way to articulate this other than that. I wanted a venue that encompassed people and they felt like, wow, I'm somewhere special. I didn't want them to be kind of in the middle of nowhere, not necessarily in the middle of nowhere. I didn't want there to be like eyesores around the venue, which we'll get down to later. So I had a very high list of exactly what I wanted, because I wanted it to kind of transport people, be really elegant, timeless, you know, very regal, but also not have a bunch of chaos around it, but also not be too far, also be within our budget and have, you know, somewhat dates that we wanted. So high expectations, a lot of requirements from me for these venues. So please keep that in mind. I literally could have gotten married at any of these venues I'm gonna show you because I loved them all that much. Ultimately, the one we chose, which I will tell you guys at the end, beat out the other ones, but these are all beautiful venues. So please know that if you want to get married here, if you work at this venue, if you did get married there, all these venues, when I'm telling you like the reasons they didn't work for me, doesn't mean they are absolutely beautiful venues. Like I'm telling you guys, all of these are stunning, love them, beautiful. But ultimately, you have to decide what works best for you on a variety of topics and categories. So yeah, let's jump on in. So I'm gonna be looking down at my phone because I am going to be popping up pictures on the screen here of the venues as I kind of talk, but I'm gonna sort of reference them as I do like the talk through here, so I have to be able to see what I'm doing. The very first venue we went to was a venue that for me had been on my Pinterest board forever. I mean, I didn't have a Pinterest before we like really got engaged, but it had been on my like imaginary Pinterest board forever, and that was the Powell Crosley estate in Sarasota, Florida. So this was actually the farthest venue for us and our family to get all the way down to Sarasota. So we knew it would have to be something like really special to make that kind of drive worth it. In addition, it was on the higher end of our budget for the venue. I believe it was $8,500 for a Saturday date for the whole estate. And I believe it was a 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. rental. So more like what I would consider not half day, but you didn't get it in the morning time, basically. And that included almost nothing except, I think either some tables or chairs. Maybe they had a few, it was one or the other. They like had chairs, but not tables or something like that. Definitely no linens, no lighting, nothing else really. It was just the venue. So that ultimately ended up being a big thing for us, that for $8,500 just for the venue, we didn't feel like we were getting much bang for our buck. Now, that being said, this venue, oh my gosh, you guys, this was our second choice. 100% hands down, this would have been what we'd chosen had we not chosen the one we did. This venue is so beautiful. It's got that old Florida kind of Mediterranean look to it, so it's right on the water. The outside of it, I'm looking at a picture of it here now, it's just so grand. It has these beautiful like arch windows, rounded windows, with like little Juliet balconies. Every room in the house has like basically these gorgeous chandeliers. It's got this kind of old stone cobbled floors, maybe is what I'm looking for. Absolutely beautiful. And then like I said, it is on the water. So you kind of walk out into this sort of patio area, which is where we would have had actually both the ceremony and reception, and you can see the water. So beautiful, especially at sunset time. It had some really cool like grand rooms with like fireplaces, and there was a pretty staircase inside, and then also a bride and groom getting ready suite. Everything here is like ultra historical. So this mansion was built, I think 100+ years ago. Absolutely beautiful. So for us, the thing that kind of, you know, decided against this venue was really a couple main things. Like I said, this was our number 2. It's so beautiful. The things I didn't love and why we didn't go with it, just for brides to know, because sometimes it's hard to, I'm trying to help you guys narrow it down basically, so I'm just gonna give you the nitty gritty. $8,500 for absolutely nothing essentially, other than the venue, which for us would have meant having to source out linens, chairs, you know, catering, obviously, all of that. So that puts a lot more work on the bride and or your planner. Not that that's impossible, definitely not. I know brides who do that all the time. I was totally willing to do it had it been the place for us, but just know that is an extra stress that you have to coordinate with the venue, separate from the food, separate from the liquor, separate from everything else. So that does make it more strenuous on the bride. So the price for needing to do everything a la carte was kind of a hindrance for us. In addition, it was the farthest venue for us, so 100% all our friends and family would have needed hotel rooms, which obviously Brian is my fiance. I don't know if I've said his name yet. Brian and I clearly are going to have a hotel or Airbnb or wherever we stay. But for other people who maybe don't want to stay the whole weekend or stay the wedding night, they would have had to get a hotel. Absolutely, they couldn't have driven back and forth. And then on top of that, there was not a really good rain plan, at least one that I would have been happy with. So it has a beautiful kind of like main inside room that's absolutely gorgeous. It's kind of like the big living room sort of situation you first see when you walk in the doors. It's beautiful, but for us, we're wanting about 75 to 100 guests. It would have been too cramped and I wouldn't have liked it, basically. I would have loved it because I think it's beautiful, but not by force or having to do it in there. I would have loved the room for maybe like cocktail hour or something, but to have to do the ceremony and reception there for the Powell Crosley estate, for me at least, you're really paying for the outside and that view. So for us, I really didn't love that. Also, with being on the coast, if, you know, we are getting married during hurricane season. Ooh, so scary. If hurricane season or a hurricane or even a bad storm kind of came that way, it's right on the water. So you're really gonna be affected if a storm happens to kind of come up that coast. So for me, I have a lot of anxiety. Like I said, I'm very type A. I knew I would be worried about until the wedding day, our backup plan or our rain plan. So that's another reason that one wasn't for us. On top of that, they did not have our preferred date. And then the way they kind of went about scheduling your date, like I said, I didn't actually fully go through the process because we didn't pick the venue. But the way that they said they were going about the dates is that they would release like each month. So they'd release like November dates for 2025 on May 1st at midnight. So you were encouraged to like log on at midnight and then like submit like your request for that date. I don't know, I didn't actually go through with it, but it just sounded stressful. Like I got an email from one of the you know, team members there, and they were like, yeah, we encourage you to have all your friends and family all log on at midnight to try to get the date you wanted. Almost like it was like a sale, you're kind of rushing to buy something. I didn't really love that. I'm really going for zen and peaceful bride energy. So I know my limits and I try to avoid things that are going to stress me out. So just the thought of like frenzying to get a wedding date there was not my vibe. And then on top of that, even in the frenzy, it wouldn't have been my preferred date. For us, that is why the Powell Crosley estate was not it, but it is absolutely beautiful. Please, somebody have your wedding there and send me pictures because it is gorgeous. All right, so let's move on to the second venue. So I can't really count this fully as a wedding tour because we didn't actually go as a wedding tour. We went ourselves and then kind of just saw it. So this is the Ringling in Sarasota, the Ringling Art Museum. So I have seen this on Instagram and TikTok for years. And actually Kayla from The Bachelor got married there and I was obsessed with her wedding. It was so beautiful. So I'd always thought, oh my gosh, I'd love to get married there. Well, then I looked at the prices, honey, and those things were between like 20 and 30,000 just for the rental. So obviously that was kind of way out of the budget. However, had I fallen in love with it and we wanted to put more of our funds towards the venue, or we waited another year to get married or something, then maybe it would have been worth it. Basically, I was just trying to see, because if I had to have it, then I had to have it. You know what I mean? So we actually went as just like guests of the museum. So we just bought tickets because we want to go to the art museum regardless. We both love museums. And it's literally 5 minutes from the Powell Crosley estate in Sarasota. So we were like right in the area. So we went to see it and I'm so glad I did, because while it is beautiful, even if I had all the money in the world, I would not have picked to get married there. The layout was a little bit different than I thought it would be. They have the, forgive me, I'm probably gonna say it wrong, the Howey Mansion, which is absolutely gorgeous. We actually didn't even go in it. We just kind of saw it from the outside. And then we saw obviously the Museum of Art. It is beautiful, 100%. It's got this like gorgeous little courtyard area and like these beautiful like arch hallways. And then obviously you can go inside to the art museum, which is really unique for your guests. But for me, it had a little bit of that essence of where they were trying to recreate. I don't actually know how old it is or anything like that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be old, but there's certain things where you feel like they're trying to give you the vibe that it's old, or that it's in another place, or that it's really like elegant, but it feels like that was what they built it to be rather than it is that. I don't know if that makes any sense. but it just wasn't for me. I thought it was pretty, but I just went, oh, it's pretty. I didn't go like, wow. Like for me, the Powell was way more wow, especially for less than half the price. So we saw it. It was absolutely beautiful. You could have a gorgeous wedding there, but for me, it certainly wasn't worth the price. And then also, I don't know, like there was so many people there. It was really spread out. Like I said, we have family, you know, who's elderly and they're not as mobile. So for us, it just was not the place, especially for that price. So the next venue was actually our second choice online, especially for my fiance. He is way more outdoorsy. He's blue collar, kind of like fishing and, you know, the woods. We couldn't be more opposites in that way. So he loved this venue because it had that kind of outdoorsy beautifulness to it. This was the Sterling event venue, which was number 3. So this is in Clermont, Florida, which if you're in Florida, Clermont's kind of out there, a little bit in the boonies, but it is really beautiful. It's got like rolling hills, which is unlike Florida at all. So it had a very Tuscan inspired feel. I would have loved to have gotten married in like Europe or something. So we went for that really Mediterranean look at the Powell, and then we saw the Ringling, and then this one was way more like Tuscany-ish. So it's got a beautiful banquet hall where you can go inside for, you can have your reception or a ceremony here. It's got this gorgeous staircase, these chandeliers, like high vaulted ceilings, that really dark, rich wood color. So beautiful. My mom loved that space. I love that space. And then it connects to a groom suite, which was really nice. And then they have almost like a little apartment attached to it that is a bridal suite. That was huge. It literally felt like it could be an Airbnb. They had like a whole little table and couch, and then they had like a makeup vanity and then a separate dressing room. And then that actually connected out to the grand staircase in the like reception area that the couple could do their grand entrance for. So pretty. This venue, I believe, was right under $8,000, and once again, it was kind of like the Powell, pretty a la carte. However, they did include, I think, some tables and chairs, and then you got the venue for like the whole day. I think it was like 9 a.m. to 11 or 12. It was a great time frame. And then they had this just nice outdoor area, lots of greenery, and this beautiful, like this is my favorite part of the venue. They have this beautiful winding path up to their kind of like ceremony pavilion, which is sort of like, I don't know, you'll see it in the pictures. It's a beautiful like wood structure with a chandelier in it, and it would have made the prettiest grand entrance. Prettiest grand entrance ever. It was gorgeous. Like I said, it was about $8,000, which once again was on the high end for our budget and would have required us to do the whole like finding a caterer, finding a this, finding a that thing. And on top of that, they did not have our preferred date. But the biggest sort of nail in the coffin, well, it's really two things for me with the Sterling. First off, the staff there, we met with Liz, and she was fabulous. Love you, Liz, you were so sweet. The biggest two things for me was that it felt a little too rustic country for me. So if you're in Florida, you know almost every wedding venue in Florida is a barn. And I love a good barn wedding. I know so many people are having barn weddings. I love it for you. It's just not my style. So I was really trying to do something. I want to be unique. I want to be like against the grain, basically, at least for Florida. And I did not want at all to feel like I was like in Florida, or that the venue looked like a typical Florida venue. It is more on the European side of Florida venues, but I still felt like with the wood, and it had like barrels outside, which goes kind of Napa, Tuscany, but with the combination of it being in Florida, it felt too Florida for me. That was a big thing. And then also, I really want the kind of moment for our guests when they pull up to the venue to be like, wow, this is beautiful. Like, I want it to take their breath away from the moment they arrive. And when you pull up to the Sterling, it looks like a banquet hall, which is not a bad thing. But for me, like I said, I want this grand entrance from the moment they get there. From the moment their car arrives, I want them to be like, whoa. And so the Sterling felt a little bit more like a wedding venue. And I don't know, like I said, I'm so picky, but it just felt like a little more standard than I wanted. But like I said, it was so beautiful. There's so many beautiful like photo spots and everything. So once again, somebody go get married there because it is gorge. All right, so venue number 4 is actually kind of one of those weird situations where I didn't fully tour it. But this was the venue that like a month before I got engaged, I would have told you I'm 100% getting married there, and that is the Howey Mansion in Howey in the Hills, Florida. So we actually went to see this venue after the Sterling because they're sort of in the same general direction, and since we'd already hauled out to Claremont, we just went over there. By the way, I went on these tours with either my fiance or my mom and friend Bailey, so I had outside opinion, so I'm also kind of synthesizing the vibes and information they got from each venue in addition to my own opinions. So we went out there, and let me just backpedal. This venue online looks like fairy tale romance to a T. It looks like that, just like beautiful, once again, Mediterranean look with this staircase and that like dark ambiance, like the romanticism of it all. It looked so beautiful online. So literally they were my first email out the door when I got engaged, because I was like, hey besties, love you guys so much. I did not love their response back to me. So they didn't like cuss me out or anything. You know, it wasn't like they did anything horrendous, but as a bride, you will see the difference in customer service between different vendors and venues, and you just have to decide how much that matters to you. For me, that mattered a ton because like I said, I'm very anxious and I'm of, you know, very like relational, so I want to feel connected to my vendors for my wedding. It's like the most important day, so you know, I want to feel like I'm comfortable with those people that I'm working with and I'm paying tens of thousands of dollars to. And so I got kind of this response back that was like not even like a hi, how are you, congratulations, and not that you need them to like kiss your butt, right, but you want to feel like they're like at least a little professional. I got responses back that were like, no heading, no intro, just we don't have availability that date. If you want to book a tour, you have to do this online scheduling system. So I was like, okay, fair enough, online scheduling system. So I clicked on the online scheduling system, no appointments the entire month of April to tour the venue. So I was like, okay. Every other venue that I went to, they were above and beyond accommodating, and even when they had the online scheduling system like the Powell did, they had plenty of dates and times to choose from. So they literally had no availability for a tour at all in April, which this was April 10th when I reached out. It's not like the last week. So I was like, okay, whatever. And then as I kind of tried to like talk to them about like other date options, it was really like chaotic. Like I would be like, hey, does 9/27 work? And then she would be like, oh, 9/27 is 9/21's booked. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I was asking about 9/27. And then it was like, oh, I was at an event last night responding on my phone, here's the correct information. Like it was just very chaotic. At the same time that I'm kind of like getting a little feeling from my own experiences, I was reading online reviews of the venue, and there were several absolutely kind of like reaming the staff there, saying that they ruined their wedding and that they were terrible to work with. So I was like, oh no. So the cards sort of started stacking against the Howie Mansion because of the customer service. They were higher on our price point. They didn't have our date. And then I even asked one of the vendors I'm working with, who I had my heart set on early, I had asked her like, hey, have you worked at the Howie Mansion? Have you had this experience? Because, you know, you don't want to just take something online and think it's fact. I want to give people a fair chance. And she told me that she had not worked there, but she had heard that they were difficult to work with. So I was like, oh no. So when they finally released the May dates, which mind you, you can't be like, oh, there's no dates in April, let me skip to May, because they don't already have those published. So that was the other thing, is in her email, she was like, well, if you want a tour, we'll be posting May tour dates sometime soon, so just check every day. So I was literally like, going online, checking the venue's like schedule calendar to see when they release the tour dates. It just wasn't a good experience. So finally I did book a tour for May 11th, which has not happened yet. And I was annoyed by that because I was seeing all these venues basically within 1 week, because it makes it easier to compare, and also I wanted to get the show on the road to do them all at once. So that would have put me touring all these other venues in the span of 1 week, and then waiting a couple weeks to go see the Howie, which was fine. But since we were up in the area of like Claremont, seeing the Sterling and everything, we decided to drive to the Howey because I knew, seeing the outside of it, that that would be a really big determining factor for me because I wanted the wedding predominantly outside. So we drove up to it, and you guys, it was not for me. Like, God has a plan for everything, because the Howey, I'm glad they had started kind of treating me not the way I wanted to be treated, because I knew then from, like, I had already set it so low on my books because I didn't want that experience, that I was actually going to be so disappointed if I went and loved it, because then I was going to be like, okay, well, I love this, I have to get married here, but I have to work with like maybe not the best of teams. So we pulled up, and I literally was looking around and was like, no way, this is it. Like, are we serious? I thought from online that it was in the middle of like forestry, rolling hills, something. It's literally on a main road across the street from like people's homes. So like the mansion's right here, there's a road, and then right over here across the street is just people's homes. And so when we pulled up like midday on a weekday, there was just people like sitting outside on lawn chairs on their lawns, which as they should, that's their home, do what you please, but they're literally looking into the Howie Mansion. So I felt like had we had our wedding there, that we would have had it on the like kind of the front side of the house. So if you've seen the venue, you'll kind of know there's some like arches, like scalloped arches. That's exactly where I wanted the ceremony to be. People would have literally been able, my guests would have been able to turn around and see like old Johnny Joe sitting in his lawn chair in his front yard, and then they would have been literally watching my wedding take place. It just was not the vibe. Like I said, I want people to be not taken out of the beautiful moment by like distractions. So for me, the surroundings of the venue are like so important. Yeah, it was like really weird. On top of that, their landscaping was like not the best. My mom, she's an interior designer. She pays like a lot of attention to detail, which is exactly why I'm using her so much during this time. She was talking about how like when you go to pull up, so it does have like a kind of privacy wall, but it's pretty low. Like I'm only 5'4", I could see right over it to take the pictures that I've included here. The driveway, like cement driveways pulling up to the Howie Mansion, were all like busted up concrete. It just didn't look like they maintained it well, and like the privacy wall had mildew on it. And then on top of that, my friend Bailey that was there with me, she, like, you know when someone says something, you can't get it out of your mind? The paint on the Howie Mansion, I think it was old, or it is old, I know that. Then they restored it to like keep some of the, you know, history to it, but they like refurbished it. They painted it to look old, but it makes it look like camo print. And so Bailey said, she was like, it kind of looks like it's painted camo. And once she said that, I was like, oh no, I can't get this out of my head. So it is beautiful. I will say it does look very fairy tale, but the combination of the price, the dates, the customer service, the surrounding areas, and it just looked like the upkeep wasn't the best. I was like, immediately no. I canceled the tour to see it because I was like, I know what I need to know. I know I would have liked the inside. I think it would have looked very similar to the Powell, but for me, the outside is where we would have done almost everything. So the fact that I didn't like the outside scratched it off the list. But yeah, I do think it's a beautiful venue, but just be aware that maybe the team might be a little difficult to work with there, and that you might have some neighbors hanging out with you on your wedding. Okay, so I think this is venue number 5. So the 5th venue we went to was Villa Festa in DeLand. So let me just tell you right off the bat, Villa Festa has such a unique and cool concept, which is exactly one of the main reasons I wanted to tour it. So they're essentially an Airbnb and venue in one. So when you book with them, you actually get the whole entire like estate for the weekend. So you get to check in, I think at like Friday at noon or something, and then you check out the following Monday if your wedding's on like a Saturday or Sunday. So I really loved that because, like I said, family is like everything to Brian and I, so we loved that we'd all be able to kind of stay there together. On top of that, the front of the venue is a very like Italian Renaissance, which is exactly what I wanted. So we went over there, and the team there, it is a husband and wife that own it. Beth and Brian actually was his name. They were the sweetest. Can I just tell you, the sweetest? They were so professional. They had all of the helpful like tips and insight for us. So nice, so friendly, absolutely love them. They refurbished this property and made it like kind of new but kept some of the history to it. And they did a phenomenal job of towing that line between like modern classy and historical elegant. It was beautiful. For me, the only things I didn't love was like I said, I'm kind of a control freak, and I also am very Miss Independent. I didn't like that we could only have the ceremony basically in one spot and the reception in one spot. So they have an outdoor covered pavilion, which is where the reception would have been, and then they have some like mossy trees where you can do your ceremony. And both of those were beautiful, but I didn't like that basically like so like as people are sitting for the reception, they don't tear down the ceremony because you would see it in the background. So I felt like it was gonna be a little small for our guest count, which is about 75 people. I think this venue would be literally perfect for someone who wants an intimate wedding and wants to party with those people for like a weekend. Maybe if you had like 40, max 50 people, and then you've had all your friends and family stay with you. I think it'd be perfect for that. For me, I was looking for something, the venue itself was the most important part to me. The getting to stay there was a bonus, but wasn't a necessity. So for me, the venue itself didn't necessarily beat out the Powell or the one we chose. But like I said, I loved them so much. Like, you guys, seriously, I recommend them because they're so sweet, and they clearly care and want to help brides the best they can. The other thing for me is that it is in the middle of DeLand, which when you're standing outside in the ceremony space, the venue manager was talking to us, and all I could hear was cars whooshing by, which, like I said, for me, I'm so about not having something take me and my guests out of the moment, and I felt like I would have just been standing at the altar hearing those cars go by. So little things, but ultimately I am that picky. But this venue was so beautiful. There's pros and cons to literally everything, and so many pros to Villa Festa. It is beautiful. My mom actually teared up when we were there because as Beth was like kind of describing my walk down the aisle, my mom like saw the vision. So yeah, it's beautiful, and it will bring your mom to tears. So definitely go check it out. Okay guys, it's time. This is the final venue and the venue that we chose for our wedding day. So drum roll please. So we chose the Luxmore Grand Estate for our wedding. I'm so obsessed with it, I can't. So the Luxmore is in Winter Springs, Florida, and it is beautiful. Okay, it's like this huge white mansion with these beautiful Juliet balconies, this water fountain in the front, and when you pull up to it, you guys, it's just like whew, grand. And then you walk into the front, and there's this big beautiful grand staircase and this giant chandelier. Like, oh, I'm salivating thinking about that chandelier. And then in the kind of back of the home is this big beautiful grand ballroom with these chandeliers and just that like beautiful white crown molding, and this bar that's like so massive and historic. Like, it's just a piece, which online I never thought I'd be like obsessed with the bar, but when you're there in person, it just feels so like old-timey, old money kind of vibes. And then they have all these beautiful little rooms, like the fireplace room up front, and then they have a groom suite, which is so like I said, just old money elegant. And they have a sitting like library room, which is literally my Beauty and the Beast money talks vibes. I literally loved how it looked so much. I'm not balling on a huge budget here, but I wanted my venue to feel like it was. It just felt like that. Like, I feel like my guests can mingle and see all these beautiful historic rooms. And then upstairs was a massive bridal suite. Oh my gosh, it's got like that old bathtub. It kind of looks 80s upstairs, which I kind of like, but it's got this big bathtub with like a swan, gold swan, like faucet on it. It's got this huge like closet where we can put all our stuff. These beautiful like French doors and French windows. Everything from the little bathrooms that our guests get to use were so carefully decorated. And something that stood out massively to me about this venue was the smell. Like, do you know when you go in a luxury hotel and it smells nice? You're like, oh, I can't afford to be here. That's how the Luxmore smells. I hope it smells like that on my wedding day. But it was so, like, every room you walked into, you're like, oh, I'm in wealth, honey. It was beautiful. And then the outdoor area is also beautiful. They have like a nice little patio and then this big fountain, which you can actually do your ceremony in front of. And then they also have what they call the Jessup Garden, which I think is where most people do their ceremonies. It's just kind of like a wooded, grassy area with like a walkway. I haven't decided where we're gonna do our ceremony yet. 100% reception is gonna be in the grand ballroom, but I don't know where we're gonna do our ceremony yet. So please give me your opinions. Like, every time I think I've decided on one spot for our ceremony, I see a picture or I think about it and I change my mind. So if you've ever been to a wedding at the Luxmore, tell me, where was the ceremony? What's your opinion? I need to know. If you even haven't been there, tell me your opinion. I want to know. It is just so beautiful, and the surrounding area, it's kind of almost in a residential area, but there's nothing like directly beside it, and there's these like shrubs and walls and gate around it, so that you just feel like you're somewhere else in the world. And then it's got the lake behind it. Beautiful, you guys. Like, we were probably there 10 minutes, so I was like, yeah, this is it. The other thing for me, like I said, I am religious. I believe God has a plan for everything. This venue had our preferred date. It was literally one of the only ones who did. Was below our budget and included a like fruit infused water station for our guests at the ceremony, all our tables and chairs. The chairs was a big thing for me because I really don't like those garden folding chairs, and they actually have like the Chiavari nice chairs you can use. I do think if we do it in the Jessup Garden, we have to use those the folding chairs, but at least they're the brown ones, not the white ones. But anyways, like, it felt very upgraded. They had a in-house caterer and bar service, so we literally only have to talk to the team at the Luxmore for tables, chairs, food, drinks, all of that, which to me just sounds like such a relief. On top of that, their customer service was phenomenal. Amanda is who I've worked with thus far. She literally was the only one of the venues when I submitted like an inquiry request to call me, to make me a quote, to like go bend over backwards to accommodate when I could come tour. Literally above and beyond. She was so sweet in person. My friend and my mom both were like, this is your place. It screams you. And I kind of believe it's like your man's. When you know, you know. And I knew with Brian, and I knew about this venue. So I definitely am so obsessed with it. Like I said, it included so many amenities and it was just so beautiful, and I really feel like it's gonna transport people. And like I said, I wanna bling it out and everything, but I don't feel like I have to. I would love to add some stuff to it, but at the end of the day, if I didn't, I would love to get married there. So yeah, this is a very long video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the venues I toured in the Central Florida area for my wedding. So like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know any comments, questions, concerns down below. If you got married at any of these venues, tell me your experience. Give me your input, your insight. This is a safe space for brides. So yeah, like I said, I missed you guys a lot and I'm glad to be back. So let me know what else you want to see, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.